Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown are the best duo in the NBA. The Boston Celtics just secured a massive comeback victory versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, an overtime victory, 127-120. Jayson Tatum absolutely carried the Boston Celtics in the fourth quarter in overtime, putting on a masterclass performance, getting MVP chance. And Jaylen Brown absolutely dominated in the first quarter and hit some massive free throws. We'll be breaking down the post-game reactions and analysis of this game versus a dominant Minnesota Timberwolves team in the Western Conference. All that and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz. But before we get into any Boston Celtics content, I'd like to say roughly around 80% of our viewers aren't subscribed, and we'd greatly appreciate if you guys hit that big old red subscribe button and helped us get to 3,000 subscribers on Celtics Digest. We're less than 100 subscribers away, and if you want to make sure you stay up to date on daily Boston Celtics content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as you definitely will not regret it. But let's dive into the news at hand today, so make sure to grab a snack as we break down this fantastic comeback win from the Boston Celtics as they secure their 18th win at home and securing an 18-0 franchise record for the Celtics at home wins in a season. The Celtics secured a fantastic come-behind win. And before we look at the stats, I want to give some post-game analysis, and I want to know your guys' thoughts and opinions as well. So leave them down below in the comment section how you thought the Boston Celtics played tonight. Personally, I was very, very happy how the game started out. No Tingus Pingus for the Celtics, no Rudy Gobert for the Timberwolves. So then without both of their best big men that they had, it was going to be a tough matchup for both teams. The Celtics started off hot with Jayson Tatum being really good in the first quarter, and then Jaylen Brown absolutely dominating, putting up 15 points total in the first quarter. The game was very close, though, back and forth, as it was a defensive matchup between both juggernauts of each Western and Eastern Conference. Once we got into the third quarter, though, the Timberwolves started to pick it up a little bit offensively. The Celtics started to seem to struggle a little bit. And then once we got into the fourth quarter late, it seemed like the Timberwolves were going to take the game away with a 9-point lead with 4 minutes left. It looked like the Celtics were going to lose their home win streak, and it was going to be a devastating day. But the Celtics absolutely bounced back, led by fantastic performances from Jayson Tatum. The Celtics came back and got a fantastic victory, then bringing it to overtime, and then absolutely dominating overtime. Jayson Tatum helped this Boston Celtics team. Let's dive into the stats and look and see. As you guys can see, the Timberwolves shot better from the field from the Celtics and shot better than three, while the Celtics did shoot better from the free throw line. The Celtics missed one total free throw compared to their last game where they shot terribly, which was fantastic. And on their one missed free throw, Derrick White got the clutchest offensive rebound, which led into fantastic ball movement around the three to lead to a Jrue Holiday three to bring the momentum back for Boston in the fourth quarter. The Celtics were also out-rebounded by the Timberwolves by one. Tied in defensive rebounds, lost one in offensive rebounds. It seemed like the Boston Celtics struggled on the boards tonight. Were lost by one assist, lost by 3 blocks, had one more steal than the Minnesota Timberwolves, and had one less turnover, but were absolutely dominated with the points in the paint, 54-38, and the Timberwolves caused a lot more fouls than the Boston Celtics, 27-19. Those were the honest difference makers into this tonight's game. The Celtics got a lot more free throws than the Minnesota Timberwolves did, but the Timberwolves played a lot better than the Boston Celtics defensively, as they got a lot of key stops. The Boston Celtics were not doing great on defensively until late in the fourth quarter and overtime, where they actually got some key stops, or maybe the Timberwolves were just missing some clutch opportunities where the Boston Celtics were capitalizing on them, but the Boston Celtics were struggling to stop the Minnesota Timberwolves in the third and fourth quarter on consecutive stops. Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns were both dominating on the Minnesota Timberwolves side of offense. But let's look at the team individual stats for each team. And like I mentioned, the Jays were absolutely fantastic for tonight. Jayson Tatum, 13 for 26 from the field, shooting 50%, 6 for 11 from 3, 13 for 14 from the free throw. Like I mentioned, he was the one to miss the free throw, but it was still worked out as Derrick White got that fantastic offensive rebound. 4 total rebounds, 2 total assists, 1 total steal, plus 3 and 45 points. Him putting up 40 tonight and Jaylen Brown putting up 40 in their last game is absolutely fantastic performances from the Jays. And Jaylen Brown also had a masterclass performance, had 15 in the first quarter and kind of slowed down, but was key for the Celtics in the free throw line, 13 for 13, 4 for 7 from 3, 9 for 16 from the field. With 11 total rebounds, he got some clutch rebounds in the overtime and fourth quarter. 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block with 35 points. A guy like Derrick White didn't have the greatest shooting night tonight, 3 for 11, 1 for 5 from 3. But like I mentioned, got that key offensive rebound to kick the ball out to Jrue Holiday and played some impactful defense alongside with Jrue Holiday late in the game to bring the Celtics back. 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 9 total points. Again, like I was just talked about Jrue Holiday, now I'll talk about Derrick White. Now I'll talk about Jrue Holiday. 5 for 15 from the field again. Not the greatest shooting night. 2 for 10 for 3, hitting that clutch 3 for the Celtics. 5 total rebounds, 4 total assists, 2 total steals, 1 block, and 12 total points for Mr. Holiday. Hit some clutch shots for the Celtics. And Al Horford, again, not the greatest night from him as well offensively. Only 9 total points, 8 total rebounds, 5 total assists. 3 for 8 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3. This game was mainly controlled offensively by Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. As you guys can see, if you want to look at the bench, it was kind of a short bench tonight. Only 4 players got some run. Brissett didn't really do that anything impactful. Only 2 defensive rebounds. Sam Hauser, 2 for 5 from 3, 2 for 6 from the field with 4 total rebounds and 6 total points. Hit 2 clutch 3-pointers in the fourth quarter back-to-back. Besides that, Sam Hauser didn't do that much offensively. Luke Kornet had a little bit of shine in the first half. 3 for 4 from the field, 2 offensive rebounds, 3 defensive rebounds for 5 total rebounds and 8 total points, but nothing too much to show late in the fourth quarter. And Payton Pritchard started off 1 for 1 from the night, but then went 0 for 3 from the rest of the night with 1 defensive rebound and 1 total assist, finishing with a +3. Ultimately, the Boston Celtics got really lucky late in the end of the game, getting some clutch stops and having Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown absolutely dominate on the offensive side of the ball. If we want to look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, we can obviously see that they had some struggles as well. Jalen McDaniels obviously fouled out, which led Jayson Tatum to be a lot more explosive on offense late in the game for the Celtics. But the Timberwolves had some very key impactful pieces play tonight. Karl-Anthony Towns played a great game, finishing with 25 points and 13 rebounds, looking like an unstoppable force in the paint and hitting some threes. Kyle Slow-Mo Anderson had some impactful fourth quarter minutes as well and scored 8 total points in the fourth quarter with 17 in total. Nickeil Alexander-Walker hit some clutch threes, 3 for 5, 15 points, and obviously Anthony Edwards, being their number 1 player and main star, went off versus the Boston Celtics and scored 29 points. Luckily for the Boston Celtics, Anthony Edwards did not go off in overtime this time versus the Celtics, as Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown did. Anthony Edwards had a little bit of a cold overtime, but Naz Reid was their main impactful piece off the bench with 19 points, 7 for 5 from 3, and 3 for 7 from 3 with 10 total rebounds. Naz Reid is a dynamite piece for this Minnesota Timberwolves team. He seems to be very effective versus the Boston Celtics. Last year when we played him, he was very effective from the 3-point range. And in the first matchup when the Celtics played the Minnesota Timberwolves, where they lost in overtime in Minnesota, he was a very effective piece as well versus the Boston Celtics. Ultimately, though, the Boston Celtics get a clutch come-behind victory, 127-120 in overtime, led by Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Derrick White and Jrue Holiday had some key impactful moments defensively late in the fourth quarter as the Celtics tightened up on defense to get some key stops, and that was what brought them back in the game. If they don't get those key stops, the Timberwolves easily are going to be able to score on those possessions, as the Timberwolves offense was very fluid for them tonight. One thing that the Celtics got was a lot more free throws and a lot more threes hitting than the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves had a better percentage shooting threes, but took a little bit less threes and made a little bit less. Celtics capitalized on that, while the Timberwolves capitalized on scoring in the paint with no Kristaps Porzingis. For the Boston Celtics, though, they gear up to take on the Milwaukee Bucks in their next game. Some questionable officiating from this game as well on both sides of the ball, but we'll get ramped up to see the Celtics take on the Milwaukee Bucks. Probably no Al Horford tomorrow, as it's a back-to-back, but we should be expecting Kristaps Porzingis in that Milwaukee game, as it is a battle between the top 2 teams in the Eastern Conference in Milwaukee and Celtics, the Battle of the Green. Make sure to stay tuned, as we'll have a post-game breakdown for that as well. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode here on Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.